Today, you've brought us a set of sources that, well, they present one of the most compelling contrasts in modern city planning we've ever looked at.
It really is a study in scale. I mean, on one hand, we have this incredibly detailed, comprehensive blueprint from the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, the ECA,
Right.
and it's focused entirely on designing sustainable, family-friendly cities, specifically for children from, 0 to 8 years old.
So that's the micro-level blueprint, how to design a single city block for a toddler's cognitive health. But then, to power that city, we have this, the huge financial and operational disclosure filing for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL.
Arguably the world's most critical travel hub.
Exactly.
So our mission, really, for you, is to sort of fuse these two things together, these two views that seem so far apart.
We're extracting the full blueprint for a successful city of the future.
Precisely. We're analyzing both the nurturing physical spaces for our youngest residents and, at the same time, the colossal economic engines that let these huge urban centers actually function and grow.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we have to start with the smallest residents, the ones who really have the biggest stake in how we design our future.
It's hard to overstate the importance of this. Urbanization is, well, it's the dominant global trend. As of 2022, about 56% of the world's population lives in cities.
And that's only going up.
It's accelerating. By 2030, we expect over 730 million children aged 0 to 8 will call a city home. That's about 15% of the entire urban population.
And that explosion of young people in cities really highlights a profound problem, doesn't it? Cities just weren't built with this group in mind historically. We optimized them for cars, for commerce.
And not for planned development, exactly. And suboptimal design leads to this whole cascade of negative consequences. You've got pollution, restricted physical activity, safety risks.
Social interaction, stress, anxiety.
Right. But here's the statistic that should honestly alarm every city planner out there. The research consistently shows that children in these high-stress, poorly designed urban areas score about 10 to 15% lower on cognitive tests than their rural counterparts.
10 to 15%. That's not a small margin. That is a massive developmental gap just because of where a child grows up.
It is, and it completely underscores why the ECA felt they had to develop this holistic framework, drawing on best practices from, I think it was, over 40 cities around the world.
So they broke it down into 4 pillars.
4 pillars of holistic urban well-being, and the first one is engaging and inclusive spaces. This pillar really emphasizes that play spaces have to be deliberate tools for learning, not just
a place to burn off energy.
Exactly. We're moving way beyond concrete playgrounds here. The source points to great examples like Copenhagen's nature-based adventure playgrounds.
Where the environment itself is the challenge.
Right. Or you look at Berlin's Labyrinth Kindermuseum, which encourages complex problem solving. And this idea of integrating culture is so critical.
Oh, like the Majlisna initiative in Abu Dhabi.
You got it. The Majlis is traditionally a social gathering space, so they're translating that concept into modern spaces designed to pass on Emirati culture through play. It's about building that sense of belonging right into the design.
That makes perfect sense. You can't just copy-paste a playground from Berlin to Abu Dhabi. It has to be anchored locally.
Yeah.
That leads us neatly to Pillar 2.
Which is all about being integrated and connected.
This is where we get the 10 to 15-minute city idea.
Sometimes called the 20-minute neighborhood. The concept is simple. All your daily needs, groceries, school, a park should be accessible within a short walk or bike ride. Sheffield has made this core to their whole plan.
It sounds like a great idea, but the reality is that parents feel this immense pressure around safety. The report highlights that in Abu Dhabi, just 9% of kids walk or cycle to school.
Only 9%.
And a staggering 78% of parents said they were uncomfortable with it because there just aren't safe, independent options for their kids.
And that fear, that psychological barrier, it actively limits a child's independence. But the sources show that simple tactical interventions can completely shatter that. Take the Al Falah tactical intervention pilot in Abu Dhabi.
Right, this wasn't some massive construction project.
No, not at all. They just added things like movable play equipment, picnic tables, and hammocks to existing public spaces.
And the result was, what was it, a 97% increase in play activity?
A 97% increase. And 3 times more children were on site.
Wow.
It's just a remarkable return on a very minimal investment. It proves that small changes that foster, passive supervision like placing a hammock where a parent can watch from a bench are often way more impactful than some multi-million-dollar park.
And that success ties directly into Pillar 3, sustainable and green. The need for green space isn't just about aesthetics, is it?
Not at all. It's a biological imperative for kids in dense cities. They're biologically more vulnerable to pollution. They breathe faster than adults. They're closer to the ground.
Closer to the exhaust pipes.
Exactly. Studies show that just walking along a busy road can increase a child's pollution exposure by 30%.
So design has to actively fight that. And cities are getting aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Paris's Rousseau-Zuccols scheme. They permanently pedestrianize streets right outside schools.
Or Turin's School Streets project, which showed these kinds of interventions can slash pollution exposure by up to 60%.
These aren't subtle changes. They're fundamental shifts.
They have to be. And we have to address the sheer lack of nature. The WHO standard is 9 square meters of green space per resident. Abu Dhabi currently has only 3.
That deficit forces some really cool innovation, though. The report mentions a cutting-edge concept: vertical playgrounds and urban green towers.
It's brilliant. Multi-story structures integrated into buildings or as standalone towers that maximize green space vertically. It provides shade, it provides play, all without taking up scarce ground space.
It's literally thinking outside the box. Or the park, I guess.
Which brings us to the final crucial pillar, the feeling of safety.
This one is sobering. Road traffic injuries are the primary global cause of death for children aged 5 to 8.
It's a horrible statistic, but the data also shows near-school interventions can reduce pedestrian injuries by up to 44%.
And to get there, cities are now leveraging technology, which presents its own interesting tensions. The sources talk about AI-powered crosswalks.
That can dynamically adjust timing, and we know improved street lighting can cut crime by 21% and CCTV by as much as 51%.
Safety also means being ready for emergencies. Things like child-centric evacuation plans or specialized pediatric care training, like Seattle's EMS model.
And the proposed use of drone-assisted search and rescue in Abu Dhabi, it's another high-tech layer. The level of detail here, from hammocks to drones, really gives you a measure of what it takes to build a city for its youngest citizens.
Okay, let's take a deep breath here. We just spent a good amount of time on the micro details of a single neighborhood, where the goal is safe, independent mobility for a 4-year-old.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting. We are now swinging the lens from that one street to the financial infrastructure of a global travel hub. We're moving to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL.
We're shifting from the social blueprint to the economic one. Because to build and maintain those child-friendly cities, the parks, the lights, the roads, you need an immense, complex, and reliably funded economic system. ATL is the perfect example of that engine.
And when we say engine, we mean dominant. In calendar year 2022, ATL was the world's busiest airport. It clocked in 93.7 million passengers and handled 724,000 aircraft movements.
It's the definition of a logistical choke point for the entire world.
So looking at their financial disclosure for fiscal year 2023, the scale is it's almost incomprehensible. Total passengers rebounded to 99.5 million.
And their total operating revenue for that year hit over $500 million. $508.3 million.
It's a staggering figure. But the breakdown of where that revenue actually comes from, that offers a really surprising insight into how modern airport finance works.
Yeah.
Where does most of the money come from?
Well, it comes heavily from services provided directly to the passenger. Concession revenues alone totaled $292.5 million.
So restaurants, shops, rental cars.
All of that. And most importantly, parking.
Wait, parking. So the vast flow of humanity, the international ticket fees, the cargo, the landing slots, none of that is the biggest single revenue stream.
Nope. The single largest concession revenue source, the most lucrative business ATL owns, was airport-owned parking.
Parking? You're kidding.
It brought in $164.5 million. To put the revenue concentration in perspective, Delta Airlines, their key partner, accounted for about 14.8% of total operating revenue. That airport-owned parking accounted for more than double that, a staggering 32.4% of all operating revenue.
That's fascinating. It tells you two things. First, car parking is a hugely stable and profitable business. And second, it implicitly highlights the challenge of integrating public transport into major hubs. Because if public transport works perfectly,
that $164 million revenue stream would just evaporate.
It's a direct contradiction to the 15-minute city ideal we were just talking about.
It absolutely raises a structural conflict. The financial health of the engine relies on car use, but those enormous revenues enable equally immense capital investment. The report shows that by the end of FY 2023, ATL's net capital assets reached $7.3 billion.
$7.3 billion in assets. To put that in perspective, that's larger than the entire annual GDP of several small nations. And they have $1.1 billion in construction actively in progress right now.
And that billion is funding essential projects like renewing passenger boarding bridges and completing the Concourse T extension. It's just an endless cycle of investment required to maintain that operational rigor.
And they are succeeding. It's not just a financial powerhouse. It's an operational success story. They won the ACI's 2022 award for Best Airport Arrivals globally.
And to tie back to those concession revenues, they even won a Food and Wine Global Tastemakers Award.
It shows the passenger experience is excellent. And they have a fierce commitment to safety, earning an FAA Safety Award. But it's also worth noting how they connect back to the urban community.
That connection is crucial. They run two key community initiatives for Atlanta youth, a summer experience for high school students and an aviation summer college internship program.
It's a direct investment in the city's future workforce.
Exactly. They are taking a chunk of that massive revenue generated largely by people driving and flying and investing it into career exploration for the very same kids that the ECA report says need better physical environments to thrive.
What a contrast. I mean, we've really done a deep dive across the entire scale spectrum here. We started with the design needed to foster the cognitive health of a 4-year-old, learning that a hammock and a picnic table can lead to a 97% increase in play.
And then we zoomed all the way out to see the financial reality of a modern city, a global hub with multi-billion-dollar assets, where a huge chunk of its budget comes from parking cars.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? If we connect this back to the bigger picture, I think 2 core lessons really stand out.
First, that urban planning must fundamentally evolve. It has to move from focusing only on vehicle throughput and corporate efficiency to genuinely prioritizing holistic human development, especially for kids from 0 to 8. That shocking 10–15% cognitive gap demands it.
And second, that massive urban infrastructure, like ATL, shows that modern cities are underpinned by systems operating at a just sport, an overwhelming financial scale. When you grasp that the operating revenue is over $500 million, you realize that funding for those vertical playgrounds and AI crosswalks is directly tied to the efficiency of these macroeconomic engines.
Which raises a final provocative thought for you to consider. We saw that the economic health of Atlanta's airport easily supports the massive capital assets required for modern infrastructure. We also saw that child-friendly cities need to leverage technology for safety things like AI-powered crosswalks and comprehensive CCTV.
So the challenge remains, where should the line be drawn? Between leveraging that technology for absolute, documented safety reducing crime by 51% and preserving the independent, sometimes messy, adventurous mobility that is so essential for fostering a child's resilience and creativity. That tension between absolute security and childhood exploration, that's really the new frontier of urban design.